Okay.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Holding On with Holder, where I talk to interesting people about interesting topics. My name is Steve Holder, and I am your host. My guest this evening is Angelica Brooks, forensic private investigator and consultant. Welcome, Angelica. Glad to have you with me.
Hello. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Glad to have you here. So tell us a little bit about you. How would you describe yourself?
I would describe myself as very motivated, very dedicated, and very passionate about the field of work that I do. My background is forensics, so I've done everything from crime scene investigations to autopsies. So I've pretty much had the experience across the board, and I use that experience in the field to help families that have missing loved ones, cold cases, any type of human trafficking, and things of that nature.
Okay. So you have a big family, I understand.
Yes.
Okay. Now, do they
Yeah.
help with the private investigating?
The little ones, the girls are kind of into it. They're 3 and 5, so they're kind of into it.
Okay.
The
Okay.
boys, not so much. They're 21 and 16, so they're gamers. They're more into their games. The 16-year-old is starting to spark some interest, so that's a good thing. Yay.
And you got another baby about to come anytime now?
Another baby any day now.
Wow. Well, congratulations. I hope that all goes well, and I'm confident it will. So you are a private investigator, and you're also a consultant of some kind also?
Yes. So what I do is, some people just want to consult on cases to make sure they're on the right track or get information about cases or just talk through a case. I also, at this moment, am doing some consulting for a movie. So I reviewed a case, a cold case that they're documentary film that's getting ready to be put out. So I reviewed the case and the evidence and kind of make a determination if this could have happened this way or likely happened this way or how it could have happened. So that's kind of like more so the consulting side. And then the PI side is more investigating of the cases.
Okay. So what made you decide to get into this line of work?
I chose this line of work because I could actually spend more time on the cases. Crime scene forensics, that type of thing. You're on the timeline. You gather the evidence. Next thing you know, you're going to trial. It's so quick. You don't have time to spend hours and hours on cases. And I noticed that during that time, a lot of the cases would go cold. There wasn't enough evidence. Families would be so upset because their case was just going nowhere, and there's nobody else to turn to look to it, unless just so happened the case got pulled and they would look at it again in forensics or cold case investigator, what have you. But as you can see, as crime is picking up, there's no time for them really to dedicate that much time, as many cold cases as there are. So I went back to my passion, which is, of course, investigating the cases, and I could take as much time as I wanted to develop the cases, see if I could determine any leads versus, just throwing the case off. And even if you just find one piece of evidence that leads to some sort of case, furthering the case along, that family is like full of gratitude. They're so happy and thrilled. So just being able to, not if you can't solve the whole case, even if you can find any type of evidence to help move the case along, that family is so happy. So that's where I was like, this is it. This is what I'm passionate about. This is where I want to be.
So has it been a private investigator exciting, or is it boring? Or is it both?
It's exciting. It depends on where you are. Surveillance is not one of my favorite things.
Imagine that is boring.
Yes, 8 to 12 hours in the car is just not it. Interviewing witnesses, diving into evidence cases, that's my niche. Definitely not surveillance, but like I said, it just depends on the area you're in. Some people love surveillance. It's just not my cup of tea.
So do you do mostly missing persons, or is that just a small part or a large part, or what?
That's kind of like a smaller part. I do get some missing person cases that haven't gone anywhere yet that are still quite open, but a lot of what I get is more so cold cases.
Okay. Now, do you have to have a license and a certification to be a private investigator?
Yes, so you do have to be well in most areas. So I am licensed in the state of Alabama to work any type of cold cases, missing persons, any type of investigative work as a private investigator. And I'm also a certified trainer with them as well. So I can train other investigators coming in as well as work in the private investigation field myself. So yes, you definitely have to have the training, and they love to see that you have some sort of experience instead of just you're just diving into no man's land.
Okay, so you help train people to be private investigators then, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So do you have strange hours sometimes? I imagine you can't just work 9 to 5, can you?
No. So sometimes you do have to work different hours. Based on the cases that I've been taking in lately, I've been able to kind of keep it, the 9 to 5. But sometimes you got to interview and it may be after hours, sometimes the interviews it just depends on when the other person is available and how dedicated you are to developing the case. So it can definitely go over.
Yeah. Do you travel a lot?
I was traveling a lot when I was doing more surveillance and kind of like insurance claims type of work, travel a lot. But in this area, the cases kind of come to me. People send the cases, the trial records, all of that comes in through email or however, that comes in through me. And then, I have database systems where I can research even more information. So I don't really have to travel too much unless I'm going to reconstruct or go look at another crime scene in another area.
Yeah. Is it a dangerous job? I know on TV it always is, but
it can be, but the key to it that I've learned, even since being in forensics, because I've been in a lot of, could be dangerous situations there too, is just knowing how to talk to people and communicate is key. If you come in there with the big head, like everything and you've got it all together, then you're definitely going to be met with the same.
Yeah.
You're going to get the same back. But when you're compassionate and you're showing that you're dedicated to what you're doing, you really don't run into those type of situations too often at all, really.
Good.
So you can avoid them.
Yeah. And you also have a podcast about true crime or something along that lines?
Yes, it's called The Justice Show. I did it briefly up until I found out that I was pregnant. So it's coming back this fall. And basically what it is covering missing persons, cold cases, just anything in that realm, anything social injustices, things like that. And then just kind of bringing light to the situation. But this fall, it'll be a little bit more in the field. So you'll actually see me doing things out in the field in reference to some of the cases that I work.
Okay. And I asked you to look into the summerwells case, and you kindly said that you would do that. So thank you very much.
Yes.
What do you think?
Absolutely. Oh, well, I mean, going into a case the first time, you're always, I don't care who you are across the board, even though you do so show sympathy and you are empathetic to the family, there are still some signs that stand out that are concerning, that you would look for as an investigator, that you would look for as an officer. And one of the things that I did want to say is I noticed that there are a lot of people that are like, the family, they just lost this kid, we just need to show compassion and that's it. But on the investigative side, your eyes are always open. You're looking at way more than that. You're looking deeper into that. And I think what a lot of people are confused about is that law enforcement may get up in front of everybody and may say one thing, but you'd better believe that they are actually having a conversation, amongst themselves about what they really think or what they really believe. There's a type of character that they have to keep, to the outside. You can't let them know everything. You can't let them know how you're feeling about, every single thing. And I think when I see people voicing their opinions that there might be some other type of foul play or things like that, they get beat up really quickly. And it's like law enforcement may be along on the same track, but they may be holding out for particular reasons due to their training and things like that. They can't release all the information to everybody or how they feel or what direction they're taking. So that's just the first thing I want to say, because I've seen a lot of people getting beat up because things are just not looking right. So with that being said, I did notice a lot of things that seem to be very standoutish, different signs that you would typically look for when you're investigating a case. One of those being the family speaking in past tense. I believe more so it was the father's interview I saw where he was speaking a lot in past tense, like it had already taken place. And at this point, law enforcement, they have told him, hey, the chances, may be slim that your daughter may be still alive at this point because it's been X amount of weeks. But at the same time, a grieving family, if you still hear some of these families that have been missing their loved one for like 30 years, they're still like, she is a great mom. She's a great, everything is present. Yeah. So when you see somebody that stands out and they're just automatically go to past tense, whether you want to believe it or not, that is a sign that there could be something more. There's something you want to not turn away from. And you definitely kind of want to pay attention to. So that was one of the signs. Another one, I know the father was saying he didn't understand, how his children were coping so well. Typically, when you have a missing sibling, that's not something, I don't think I didn't see any interviews where the children have actually spoken.
I don't think so.
Or I couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
No. So he's kind of in a mode of speaking for the family right now, or more so the children. How well they're coping and how well they're dealing with it, which is just not normal. Typically the children, even they're still dealing with a lot of things. I think he's just trying to make it seem like everybody's holding this solid fort together, possibly in hopes of finding Summer, but that's just not something that I would say publicly, like my kids are handling it great that she's missing, that's just not something I would say. I know he does have a past of domestic violence, so whether it be me or law enforcement, that's something they're going to key into as well. That's definitely a sign. Let's see what else. The situation with the drowning, with the young boy that came forward that said that he was out there with the family and he had been drinking because the mother of Summer had brought him alcohol, which was just,
not right.
Again, another sign. Another sign. She was under the water for more than a minute or no more than a minute. And I think he said he pulled her out and then she came to, and then he wasn't sure if a second drowning could have taken place or not. But that whole situation right there is something that you'd want to key into, paying attention to. I can see law enforcement not coming down hard on them right now, only because they don't want the evidence. If she's close, they don't want evidence moved. They don't want it touched. They don't want them to think, hey, we're looking for you, even when we know you did it. They're not coming down. They initially don't come down hard. It's towards when they're just like, okay, we resulted all our resources. Now we're going to turn the tables and, try to see what way is up. So those are some of the signs. I think that some of the things that just kind of stood up. And then I think Candace's sister is also missing since 2009, and nobody ever found her.
Yes.
Again, doesn't mean it's connected, but it's definitely another red flag.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. And then I think June 18th, Dad did a prayer vigil. And during that vigil, Dad was asking for forgiveness of sin. So that's typically not something that's said during your child's vigil. Definitely something I would key into. But it's just odd. And even if I'm not sure if the parents were polygraphed, but people are saying that they were polygraphed and they passed. There is a way to pass a polygraph. I mean, some people know how to do it very easily and can skip right past it. So
Yeah. They have had polygraph tests.
yes.
And supposedly she failed the first time, but they let her take it again and she passed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So definitely something is off there, because sometimes they do it like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
But it depends on how many times you fail that same question. So maybe she passed the question the second time around and missed another question, because it's how many times you're failing the same exact question. So then again, like I said, that would be my other red flag. That would be another sign that I would be looking at. That's definitely concerning. Whether they are guilty or not, that's still going to raise my eyebrows to wonder, to question a little bit more.
Yeah. Do you think Summer is still alive? What's your hunch?
My hunch at this point, I don't think she is. I don't think that she is. Not sure if it was maybe something that happened accidental and they just don't want to get in trouble for it, or something that happened, because I just don't believe somebody came up to the house and just took her.
Yeah.
That story is just that's hard for me to. I mean, and people do break into other people's homes and things like that and do, but just the lineup of the story is just, I mean, a house full of people, and you just grab her and then you're just gone.
Yeah.
And then you know it's a sex offender, it's this type of person, it's how do you know all these things about this person that took your child? So yeah, I'm just not, that theory is not sticking well with me. So there's got to be some other feel like there's something else that's missing.
Yeah.
As to why she's missing, and then the significance of the sister missing as well, with no leads, like nothing. And if this one was to run the exact same way and they never found Summer, I wouldn't help but to think, like, this is weird. What happened to both of them? Yeah.
Definitely weird. What are the odds of 2 people going missing in the same family, right?
Yes. And it's not like, hey, she was missing from childhood or missing from, I mean, this is 2009.
Yeah. So do you suspect maybe that human trafficking had something to do with it and it went bad, or well, what do you think? Was she just murdered? How do you think her life ended, if you think it did?
I think it seems like it could have been a situation where it could have been something to do with the drowning. I mean, it could have been something, they thought she was okay, but she really wasn't. It could be something to do with that. And then it also could be something maybe accidental, like, maybe Dad got upset or somebody got upset at the house and took it out on her. And then the next thing you know, I mean, Mom has a habit of, I think ever since he had the domestic violence thing, if he was to do anything domestic again, she would probably keep it secret. Since she dropped the first charges, I don't think she would run and tell anyone.
Yeah.
At this point, she'd probably just, kind of keep it in and just be hurting from it. I do know mom started to GoFundMe accounts, which is really kind of hard because if you're having all this funding and law enforcement and all these agencies in there, I'm not understanding if you don't know whether you're still hopeful that your daughter is alive, why you would have to set up 2 GoFundMe accounts to be raising money as if it's like for a funeral or something, So I think mom may know more than what she's saying. She might just be in fear. I mean, because dad does have that domestic violence past, and you can't really play that off. It is what it is, So I think it could be something happen leading along the lines of domestic violence, or maybe something along the lines of the drowning. If I was to go off of only the information that I have.
Yeah. Some people say that those kids, all of them need to be taken out of that home. Would you agree with that? Do you think they're just unfit parents?
Well, I'm not sure. I think at some point there had to have been some social services involved because you would think, because it's domestic violence and how off a lot of people that are close to them say that they are, you would think at some point they've already had to have some sort of services involved at some point, I would think.
Yeah.
I definitely think it looks like, I know, it just feels like there's a lot of foul play and a lot of unanswered. I just have a lot of questions.
Yeah, everybody does.
There's just so much around that. I definitely think, based on the work I did in social work as a child protective investigator, they would have been, there's no way I could not foresee this family having not been under services at some point in time. I mean,
yeah,
there's no way.
Yeah.
Whether it be people calling in, false or true, there had to have been some sort of involvement with some sort of services. Why those were terminated, I don't know, but they would be the ideal family that would be involved in these cases. Because it just doesn't make sense. But as far as, my past in that career field, yes, at some point, I think they should still be involved, but at some point they should have definitely been involved. And I think, like with the dad, I saw one interview where the dad was interviewing and he had the son standing behind him, but it was like the son couldn't even look up one time.
Yeah.
And that bothered me. He couldn't
Dad
look
always
up.
had his arm around him too, didn't he?
Yeah, and that's one big pet peeve of mine when I was in that line of work. Like, I would make sure I would separate them both and talk to them, because that is just not.
Yeah. Yeah.
That wouldn't fly.
So do you think all the people speculating on social media about it, do you think that affects the case in any way?
I think it does, because I was able to weed out very quickly when I started seeing, most of where I got my information from was actually hearing the family talk, seeing that prayer visual, not just hearing that there was one, but seeing him get up on that stand and his demeanor, the way that he was talking, the way he was carrying himself, watching his behavior patterns, things like that. That's where I started drawing my conclusions from. So it wasn't necessarily that I was feeding it to everybody else, because I could tell when it started to get like gossipy. When I started to hit across the article, I probably wouldn't even be in there more than 2 seconds in YouTube. I was like, yeah, this is not it, not worth my time, because I could tell where they were going. Because when it's more opinionated instead of fact-based, then already, where that's going. As far as calling tips in, Now, if they're calling in with these same type of tips with these gossiping lines that, I could tell it could be exhausting to the law enforcement agency because it's too much.
Yeah.
I mean, when you say you have 900 and some odd tips and it's like you rule out 900 of them, because they're all gossip.
They got to check all of them, right? Regardless.
Exactly. And it just doesn't help at all. So I definitely look for the facts of the case, the information that's going to help me determine, is this making sense? Is this okay? Now, sometimes if it's outside families or things like that, or people that are connected to them, I might feed into that a little bit because I'm like, okay, you may have your opinion, but you've been around them, Yeah. But these other ones that are just doing these podcasts that are just putting their opinion into it, it doesn't help. It just, especially if they send it in for tips, it's exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you think this case will get solved?
Well, they're on 4 weeks now, and
It's
still
over
nothing.
5
I
weeks
do know that the agency that's coming in, the EquiSearch, is very good.
Are they?
I know they are one of the top ones. They've helped find missing here in Alabama as well. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
So with them coming in, I think nobody knows kind of where to start. There's just no starting place. There's no where could she be, or where was she last, or it's just,
did she make it home that day at all?
Right. It's just you're just out there blindly, and I think that's what hurts this case so much. Is it's like there's no information. I mean, there's no surveillance. There's no. I mean, I just don't know, because there's just not enough information that's been given. And that's when, like I said, I kind of go back and reflect on the parents. I'm like, there's no info. Like, there's just not her at a gas station, not her at a store. It's just, there's nothing to it.
Do you think the whole thing about planting flowers, was that a distraction, you think, or does that have anything to do with it?
What were they?
Well,
it's like they were all out in the front yard planting flowers before they went in the house.
Yeah.
Well, I think she was trying to show how much of, I think she was trying to show at that point how attentive she was to her daughter. We were all out there together. We came in the house together. She went downstairs with her brothers together, like, trying to show there was no time that she would have been apart.
Yeah.
But the brothers are all into their game, and then you got little sister over here. At some point
we know how little boys are, right?
She's not going to be their focus point, okay?
Yeah.
And not being rude or anything like that. Not to say they're doing it on purpose. It's just they're into the game.
Yeah.
So I think when she started saying that, and then she got to that point, I was like, okay, no.
Did you watch the interview where Chris, that detective, did with Hunter? Did you have a chance to watch that?
No, I didn't watch that.
I forget the name of this guy. He was a detective, I think, in New York for 30 years. He got a show now. I forget the name of it, Chris something, but anyway, he came down. He's in the area now, and he interviewed Hunter along with his mother, of course, since he's a minor. That's a very interesting video, and it's all the stories don't match up, and they just don't match.
And it's like it's almost like maybe Hunter knows a little bit more that he's not saying, he's holding on to right now because he's scared, because you think about it, nothing has happened to these parents yet.
Yeah.
nothing has happened to them yet. So he's kind of like, well, how much info do I give? You know, because
And it has to be traumatic for the whole family and for Hunter, no matter if they're guilty or not. I mean,
that's right.
the whole family's like become famous and being scrutinized and judged by everybody. And they're all going to need therapy for the rest of their life. And I don't
Yes.
think that is a joke. I'm serious.
Yes, they definitely will. They definitely will, because I can see it all over their social media. I think mom is on her second Facebook page, and they're all over it. They're all over it. People, critics, people. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
So definitely, you know, they're gonna definitely need some services put back into that home, because this is traumatic.
Do you think the people at their church, I mean, do you sincerely think that they're really helping? They seem to like they're really helping and trying to help.
It seems like they're trying to help. I'm not sure what faith that they're practicing, because some of it, you know, on Dad's post on Facebook was just a little.
They're Seventh-day Adventist.
Okay, because Dad seemed a little bit more extreme than what the pastor, or, you know, what the others were like. You know, the others within the church are just kind of regular. You know, the Sunday teacher, she was, you know, talking about showing love and not beating up the family. Then I think there's somebody else in the church that plays the flute for her, you know, like daily. They just kind of seem the norm. But then Dad, on his social media, he has some normal posts, but then he's got some extreme kind of questionable, you know, religious posts. But that's his business. But it just seems some of the ones that I was reading were a little bit extreme, like he's taken off into his own. I think July 11th, it was something he posted something, she has to be tied up somewhere or in a creepy basement. Let's search each other's homes.
Yeah, I remember that. That's just not possible.
And it's not normal. You know, it's something is off with, Yeah.
So he's kind of trying to play detective and set the narrative and everything else, right?
Yes, trying to, I mean, it could be to throw people off of himself, but I don't know. He's just really extreme to where I have some questions that, you know, just don't meet the norm. I mean, I haven't seen anything crazy on moms, but I mean, besides the people beating her up, of course. And like I said, if she's got battered woman syndrome and this has been going on for so long, like, there's nothing anybody can say or do at this point until she's ready to get herself out of that situation. And that could include things happening to you. I mean, how many times in domestic violence do things happen to the spouses, you know, male or females, children, and they don't say a word, you know, they don't say anything because they don't know how far this other person is going to go. So
do you think,
I mean, as far as getting
the mother uses a lot of alcohol and drugs, do you think that's going to influence the investigation at all? Does that have anything to do with it?
I think it's definitely on their radar. I think it's definitely something that they're keeping track of, and something that plays a key part, because you can't just negate that. You know, you can't go, okay, well, we're just not going to pay attention to that because we don't want to judge her. No, everything for law enforcement, everything is playing a role right now. Whatever they would choose to release to the public or not, all of those factors, I'm 100% sure, are playing a role in any decisions that they're making at this moment.
So what else was a red flag for you?
I think, let's see. I think July 13th, it said, Dad said she was abducted from home and I'll see her at the resurrection.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then there's been just no information surrounding this red Tacoma taking her. There's no information to support that at all. According to law enforcement, you know, the digging and things they've done is just not, no, there's no information to support this theory. And that's what I'm saying. Like, there is nothing, not a suspect, not a person. There's really nothing to go on other than the parents.
Yeah.
And just believing she took off into the wilderness. I mean, there's nothing else to support an abduction.
Yeah. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. Yeah.
And so that's what I've got so far on that one.
So is this a most unusual case? I mean, this isn't typical, right?
You know, we just had a similar case like that. It's crazy. It was kind of similar, very similar actually to this one. And it actually happened here in Montgomery, Alabama. And it did make national news. I can't remember the couple's name, but the law enforcement let them come up there and say, you know, how they give like a public statement to, you know, the public on the search for their baby. And, you know, supposedly somebody came and took their baby from them. They didn't know who it was, who did it at a gas station, yada, yada, yada. But those parents, I think law enforcement, and it's the craziest part about it because law enforcement knew the whole time. You know, I'm sure they knew the whole time it's them, you know. Yeah. But they let them get up there, say what they've got to say. And that's the way that it goes. They let them do all of these things until, you know, they're just like, all right, enough is enough. You know, when they've run, they try to make get you into a sense of feeling guilty, you know, like, oh, I've messed up, and you know, these people want me to stay on these appearances, and you know, it's just eating you alive, you know, at that point. And that's what happened to the couple here. And I guess the dad ended up saying, okay, I did it. You know, he finally, of course it didn't take this long, but you could definitely tell mom that both of them used drugs. You could definitely tell mom was very apprehensive to say anything about dad. She was kind of following his lead, you know, throughout the whole process. But eerily similar, because law enforcement worked the same way. They were kind of like, okay, we're gonna get all these people out here. And with them, at least they had with Summer, there's nothing. There's no.
And you froze up for about 10 seconds there, and I didn't get that whole sentence. Can you repeat that sentence?
So yes, so like with Summer, there's just nothing to go off of. This dad went to a gas station. They were able to, you know, check surveillance at the gas station, different things like that. But this one here is going to be extremely hard because there's nothing. Yeah. It's just nothing to go. So it makes it very difficult because it's like she just left the house and just disappeared.
Yeah. Very strange.
And then I think the other part for me was, like I said, the lack of emotion. They're just not as broken up as I would think they would be, you know, or as you would assume.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's parents that have been missing their kids for like 20 plus years, and they'll break down, you know, in minutes, you know. But here there was just no emotion, no.
Yeah. Well, I do thank you for looking into this. What's your final conclusion on it? If you want to wrap it all up and summarize it, or how would you just summarize the whole situation?
I think I would summarize it one of two ways. either something happened accidental, you know, where it could have been something with that drowning, potentially, and she just didn't come back fully from that. Or two, something more is going on in that household than what we know about.
Yeah.
Unless, like I said, this red Tacoma appears out of nowhere. I just, my theories are kind of sticking there until I can rule it out.
Yeah.
When you can rule it out, then I say then it no longer becomes the lead. But until that point where you can rule it out, and at this point, nobody can,
Right.
because we don't know.
Yeah.
So you can say, you know, I guess people could say whatever they want to say or how they want to feel, but these are potential leads and red flags. And until you can rule them out, there's nothing.
There's nothing off the table.
And I feel like law enforcement is on the same track. There's nothing off the table.
Yeah. Well, I certainly hope it has a good outcome, but it's certainly hard to be optimistic.
Yes.
At the moment. It really is.
Yes, it's definitely gone past that time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you very much.
Now, you're welcome.
Is there
It's been
anything?
great to be here.
Great to have you here. Is there anything else you want to say, whether it's about this case or about your company or whatever? Just go ahead and say it. Well, I mean, put a plug in for you.
Well, okay. If you are looking for any type of help whether it comes to a cold case or any type of investigation, then you can feel free to reach out. My website is www.angelicabrooks.net. You can also call me at 334-731-4495. So there's 2 different ways that you can reach me. Also by email as well, and that's info@angelicabrooks.net. So anything, if you have with cold cases, missing persons, human trafficking, anything like that, you have any information on or would like investigated, feel free to give me a call.
Okay. Thank you very, very much, Angelica. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And
absolutely, it's been great being here.
Thank you so much. Well, I will let you go, and you have a wonderful evening, and say hello to that baby for me as soon as it gets here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Good evening.